Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today we talk about the new formation of the combined Super League and professional Pro League and all the trials and tribulations they're going through to get this thing started because it was supposed to be started already and now it's pushed back, and I think it's supposed to start in September is the latest I've heard or read. Let me take time to introduce a couple of my guests who is going to help me discuss that situation. I have with me Angus Eve. Welcome to the set, Angus.
Thanks for having me again, Steve.
Not a problem. And Norada Wilson. Welcome to the set, Norada.
Always a pleasure to be here, Steve.
Okay, viewers, sit back and relax, and we get started. There are so many different things we're hearing, guys, about this new league. What have you heard, or get the viewers in tune to what's going on? Let's have a barbershop discussion. We would probably have agreements and disagreements in certain things. So let's talk about it. What is going on, and how can this be mended and fixed to move forward?
I think, Steve, Norada, I think the league is meant to come to be one league under one umbrella. The idea is that long ago we used to have promotion and demotion before they had the invention of the professional league, what we so-called the professional league in Trinidad. And there was a tier that has the Super League.
Right.
And you would come from your zone, you would play in a champion, then you'll qualify for the Super League. And then they had a disconnect whereby the Super League teams don't have the opportunity, unless you buy a franchise, to come into the Pro League. They want to change that format to say that the last place team in the professional league could now get demoted into the Super League, and the Super League team could go up, the first place team will go up and be promoted. There has been a lot of challenges in that regard, because the disparity, I would think, from a financial position, from the Super League teams transition into being a Pro League team is a massive gap.
And to touch on that, what they've, to mend that slight problem is that they were offering, and this is based on recommendations from the UEFA team that was down here dealing with the commission, is that the team that goes up the following year is given a higher prize money in order to close the gap between the professional, from turning to semi-professional to professional. What has been missing in Trinidad with the need of this professional relegation and promotion and demotion is that teams at the lower tier, the Super League, think that they have the capability to play at the highest level in Trinidad. And the Pro League teams, being the highest level in Trinidad, were able to have access to the CONCACAF and some of these regional tournaments that the Super League teams, even there are a couple teams, maybe 4 or 5, that could compete at the highest level. So now they are now with direct access to playing like a CONCACAF or a CFU Caribbean Championship, which will then qualify them to a CONCACAF Championship. And I think that is what is happening. The majority of the top clubs in Trinidad and Tobago, whether the lower division or higher, playing in one grouped league, will now have the opportunity to play at the highest level.
Well, I thought we always had that idea. I had Keith Lucloy on the show before. I had many people who wanted that combination.
Yeah.
That those two leagues combined. Now we have it combined, and I don't see the problem. I see the problem as it starts with the 10 professional teams.
Correct.
And then after the first year, one Super League team come up.
Correct.
And then the second year, one Super League come up.
Correct.
Now we have 12.
Correct.
And now we start demotion and promotion.
Correct.
Okay, so what is the problem?
Well, for me, I don't, like you, I don't understand what is the problem, because they said in an interview yesterday, they did a joint interview, and they said that they were having needly problems with this and that and the other. And I'm saying there's no problem. The two, they're saying they want to put it like as in England, but England has the Premiership, which is governed. And then they have below the Premiership, you have the Championship, which is this first division and the other leagues below. We have that here already, basically. By having a Super League is in effect the Championship.
Correct.
And having the Pro League is in effect the Premier League. So the memorandum for me should have just been signed as a position of, it's just like the English League, whereby if you get demoted from the Premier League, you don't get all the TV rights money. Right. But if you get promoted, you then automatically comes into play. So the memorandum should have just been that the Super League teams can come up, and if the Pro League teams go down, then the Super League team that comes up would get the monies that was available from the government funding and whatever funding that it would have. And so for me, it's a no-brainer, really. I can understand, and my song today is emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, simply because we have to go to UEFA, and we have to go to FIFA to tell us something that Steve knows, Narada knows, and that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a done deal. So, and help me to understand. Is it when a Super League team comes up to the Pro League, they're not going to make the same money as the Pro League teams? Is that what we said?
They are going to have access to more. That is in the first, well, obviously in the first instance, because they have to close the gap. A Pro League team may have had, government subvention for a period of time. They will have more infrastructure, or should have more infrastructure. And the Super League being a team that came from a semi-professional setting where they may not have a full-time staff and stuff like that, there is the proposal that they get access to more money, I think twice the amount, in order to close the gap so they can spend this money on.
You're saying that when they come up, instead of they get the normal...
If they were, let's say it was $50,000, they're supposed to have access to 100.
Why? Because they have a bigger gap to close?
Yeah.
Who's asking that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it is being offered because obviously, as again, Super League, you're playing with guys who were probably not being paid, and now you're moving to a payroll that... Somewhat there's some discomfort there because the Pro League teams, they would have already had their sponsors or maybe whatever infrastructure they have to pay these players. So I think money or finances are more the motivator in this league and getting things done, as well as having persons, not see it as simply as you all are saying. It should have been a signed deal that everybody understands. But when you have a lot of money from outside involved, you tend to now have people saying they have a right to it more than maybe someone else, or somebody else has a pie because they've been there for 20 years. You've only come with a team for 5 years. Why should you get access because of the timing? So I think the disparity and the confusion is more because of the amount of money that is being put on the table and everyone wanting access to it.
Do you understand it as that as well?
No. To be honest, I do understand it as that simply because what I heard, I saw Keith on your show, and what he explained was very clear because he's on the committee. So, and what I gather from it is that if I get demoted and Steve's team comes up, he then gets the money. I don't think Steve should get more money.
Right.
Simply because the Pro League teams, as you rightly just said, Narada, they would have been in it for a long time. Sure. I can tell you that Pro League teams had to pay $450,000
to get in.
Just to get in the league. So now the Super League teams will not have to pay this bond coming up. So it is fair that, in my opinion, that they get the same money that whatever the Pro League teams are getting now when they come up, because they wouldn't have spent the money the Pro League teams would have spent for all these years. Yeah. And I said that's just semantics, because I think that that's a straight cut type of thing, that you get promoted, there's response. If a team comes up from the championship and goes into the Premier League, they know that they are the full sum gaps.
Right.
They're not getting any more money than the other Premier League teams. They're getting, if it's 50,000, they're getting 50,000, and they have to get their rest of money. And they have to meet criteria of having stadiums and having these things. So I don't think it should change, because let's follow the models that work, and the English Premier League and all of these other models already work.
Where you get that from?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a every month fee, but there's supposed to be access to a higher bid than the one time. It was a proposal that was made. Whether it's confirmed now or not, that is a different thing, but it was one of the proposals made.
Don't confuse my viewers. Don't confuse my viewers, because we don't know about this. This is Narada has come up with this. This is the first time I'm hearing this. So, okay. So let's go past that then. So we're not sure, viewers, we're not sure on what Narada just said, but we would keep it in the back and see if it works for us. But everything else we know is the same. And I agree with how it's supposed to be done. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was perfect. Because somewhere, because we always been saying, not because I'm in the Pro League and I'm not playing, I'm not like, okay, a team in the Pro League is playing every single year and coming last every single year. And they stays in the Pro League, there's no demotion and promotion. And the Super League teams who can do way better. So I thought it was the right thing to do, combine these two leagues. Yeah. And now they combine. And just we move forward.
I agree with that, Steve. I will just say but. And the but would be, we're competing against America because we're in CONCACAF.
Correct.
So a lot of things that we're trying to adopt and the timing of our leagues and all this kind of thing, it doesn't augur well for us. When our teams play and our league ends in May month, it's the same time as the English Premier League, then what happens now is that the teams that we have to play in club championships or when we play Gold Cup, our players are now at a disadvantage because they weren't active. So I have always suggested that we should go back to the CONCACAF time zones. Correct. Where we play from May until December, because that's what the MLS does and that's what the Mexican League does. It will bring us in line with what they are doing. Also in the MLS, there are, just as you just suggested about Pro League teams coming last all the time. In the MLS, there are teams that come last all the time and they can't get demoted simply because they don't have promotion and demotion either. Right. So what they do is they keep the players in that realm. What I think we should do here, and this is going to be very radical, and I thought about it long and hard, I think we should do as the MLS. And the money that the government is giving to all of the teams should be put in one pool. And we should have, what do they call it in America, Steve? You live a little longer than me. They draft players.
Correct.
So let's say all of the national players who play in Trinidad still, they're in a pool 1. The under 23 players in a pool 2. They do it in the CPL right now also.
Draft, correct.
You pick the under 20 national players, you put them in a pool. And so we have 4 pools, under 17 go up. So we gain development there. And every team comes here now and they pick 2 players out of the pool from each zone. They pick 2 players and they go around until they pick all the players. And the league own all the players. So if Civic, for instance, sell a youngster like Lamy, Civic then gets a developmental fee. But the money, the rest of the money goes back into the league to continue to develop the other young players. That would be my way forward. No, I haven't put in my bid for president of the TTFA as yet, but it will come soon.
Okay, good. Let's talk about that when we come back. We take a break. Viewers, we'll be right back.
If you look at the Jamaican League, they are structured very similarly. And what they have is one sponsor. Every jersey in the Jamaican League has one sponsor.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host. Okay, welcome back, viewers. Angus, before the break, you said, what did you say?
I said that the league should, all the monies from the government should be within the Pro League. The Pro League runs it, and the clubs do a draft. And so the league pays the players from the money from the government. So all teams will be operating on an even keel. Because in my opinion, this is not a professional league that we have. It's a developmental league. And we're supposed to be developing players for national teams, and we're supposed to be developing players to get contracts and a better life outside. And that is what the government should be putting the money towards, making better human beings in our country. So if we do it that way, then the guys from Civic or Club Sando or W Connection or wherever, they would have been in a draft. They now play in the league for that particular team, but they're owned by the league. So if the league sends a player outside and he gets a contract, the league gets the money, but Civic gets, if it's a player from Civic, they get the development side of the fee. And so if it's 50,000, 25,000 goes towards Civic so they can continue the programs that they're doing in their community, and 25% goes, the other percentage goes back to the league for they to continue to develop players and the league as a brand.
What do you think about that, Nara?
Yeah, I like the idea. It's something that, to some extent, I've thought about over the years. The restriction on it, or what people will object to, is the fact that if the player is signed for an exorbitant amount, the clubs could have had access to that fee directly. Now, technically, they won't because it's going to the league. So it's more or less you opening up, a club owner opening up to say, you know, I'm doing this to help everyone, opposed not to just doing it for myself. So it's a selfless act that someone has to act. And most clubs, you know, the setup of clubs in Trinidad and Tobago or across the world have been, because it's been owned by a first-generation owner at the moment, because our league is pretty young, those guys want to get a return on their investment. And it's very hard to tell them, you're only going to get 25% of your return.
50%, sorry.
Yeah, 50%. Yeah? No,
50%,
but
I said
in the opportunity, they could have gotten 100, right? But it would also mean that
but
the
they're
league,
not paying them.
Yeah, but the league has to work very active to ensure that they get the players out, because now you have clubs that could sit back and say, well, we don't really need to actively market this person because it was now the responsibility of the league. So I like it. I have no problem with the idea, but I see where the club owners would have hesitation towards it because it limits the amount they could have gotten on said player.
I see that as a big bottleneck. I tell you why I say that. And I understand what he says about the drafting and stuff. We can do that.
Yeah.
But if we only dependent on our development in the league, is what you call in the pro league, right?
Yeah.
To go out. If teams outside is not taking them and they stay here, then what is going to happen to the younger ones who come in behind? They jam.
But this is what I'm saying to you, is that the league and team, I can't see a team, if my team, I have an opportunity that I'm not paying the players. They've been paid by the subvention that we get in.
Yeah.
And we're sure that the players are getting paid. And I have an opportunity to send one of my players out to our English team, let's just use that. And he gets us contract knowingly that I'm getting 50% when I wasn't paying $1 to pay his salaries all the time. That's a win. I can't see it as a lose. I can't see that I will sit down and not try to promote the players still. Right. I disagree with that. I would not see that the league also, you see, if you look at the Jamaican league, they are structured very similarly. And what they have is one sponsor. Every jersey in the Jamaican league has one sponsor. Jamaica has nowhere the financial or the infrastructural stability that we have, and they're getting it done. They have a little fella named Bailey, he's playing in Leverkusen. Teams all over the world want him. They're going to benefit big if he moves on from that team.
Correct.
Right now, as it is, no club benefits from the players.
Correct.
Simply because when the player goes out on a trial, the agent then comes and tell you, well, he's not been with W Connection, or he's not been with Jablote, or he's not been with Ting, and I am taking him out. But who done the development? Yeah. And nobody's getting any money right now. So I think people will be interested to get some money rather than no money. We just send Josiah Tringham out. We paid for his tickets. We paid for everything. We have developed him for the last 3 years. He gotten on the national senior team. He goes out there. What are we going to say? We're not going to send him. We're not going to sign the transfer. Then the player comes back here, as you rightly said, and what happens to him? So we sign the transfer, and we get nothing from the deal. Yeah. And there's a lot of clubs going through the similar thing.
Yeah. And so, like you said before, we have to think about the player, right?
Yeah.
So the reason I would sign off on a player going for nothing, because it's a player. I'm benefiting. I mean, I'm doing it for the player.
Right, but Steve, what happens to the next player? When this player was getting $6,000 a month by us, we would have paid that money for 6 years. It doesn't happen at Manchester United. It doesn't happen at Tottenham Hotspur. It doesn't happen at Real Madrid. We are entitled, the clubs put out a lot of money. They are entitled to get back something so that they can put back to develop the next Steve David.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to you, you don't have to sign, but you would be hurting the player.
Yeah.
Manchester United wouldn't sign because if you don't give me the money, I keep them.
Well, this is what I'm saying. But that's a different dynamic because we want the players to go away. We want them to get out. We want them to get them the opportunity. But we are raping ourselves at the same time. It's similar. If a foreign coach comes into Trinidad, we find money to pay him. But if you have local coaches, you're not paying them. You're telling them to work for free. It's not right.
So I think, putting it under probably the league to take care of it may be more resourceful because you now have a bigger entity,
you have a body
representing the player, and maybe the clubs abroad or whatever would now have to negotiate with what they consider not a small club but a big enough.
The player now gets a better contract.
Correct.
Because the player now, if a player goes unattached, Narada is at age and he can tell you the club is happy. They pay him a minimum fee. They gave him $2.
There's no
but he didn't win. He just gets signing on fee. So they win, but the player here does not win, and the people of Trinidad doesn't win. The government is investing money in the Pro League, and I have to give them credit for that. And I believe that we should to be self-sustained, we have to move players to get back money. That's why the English Premier League and other leagues are getting bigger and better and clubs are getting bigger and better because of the reinvestment of the money that would have spent. When Liverpool sell Coutinho for 100 and something, they bought 5 marquee players. So they made the club better, and now they're in the Champions League finals.
Yeah. So that's why, and we're going back to where they started. That's why we should combine the 2 leagues like we have. Yeah. And then have different tiers like they do in England.
Yeah.
Instead of, like you said, the MLS, just have the MLS. And the Americans has a way, you can go wherever you want. I mean, there is no promotion and demotion.
There's none,
So we have to go with what we do now, no?
Yeah, I agree. I said that. I agree with you. I'm just saying that the MLS is a different dynamic,
right?
Because America likes franchises. But let's go to the IPL, and there's franchise cricket in Trinidad, in Caribbean, and that seems to be working very well. You see the Night Riders, they get a lot of crowd, and the cricket has gone past the football, Steve, and I mean you would know that coming back from your days when we used to full stadiums and stuff like that. I remember we full in stadiums in National Stadium. We don't full stadiums anymore. And I think if the league is not marketed right and the players still playing minor league, a man will tell him, well, why are you playing a minor league? Well, when the league goes on break, he is not paid. And when he is not paid, he can do whatever he wants. So am I going to pay to see that same player who is playing in a minor league? Am I going to go and pay to see him play in the professional league? The answer is no.
I think, that is the job of the commission, that the body that was set up to take care of the league. They really have a task on their hand because they have to, just as Angus touched on, they have to ensure that this league runs for a period of time continuously, because we can't keep going with the players probably only played during the period of the league, and then after that, his contract is broken. We might have a 2-3 month break nothing happening, he's free to go anywhere. We have to try to find ways that we are sure that these players could be absorbed within the 2 to 3 months at a club, or we sure that the football is starting back in December if it's starting and not delayed for another 3-4 months and having them on the breadline. You know, the commission is made up of, I think, 2 persons from the Super League, 2 from the Pro League, 1 from the TTFA, and then 2 independent. And they just recently had a press conference, you know, Mr. Gillette and Anthony Harford are the 2 independent persons. They have a task on their hand to ensure that the monies are there, these guys are contracted well, and this league, you know, is marketed in the right way, because then it would be another hit and miss reinvention. And as Angus correctly said, the government has invested money time and time again. They can't really get a direct return in terms of the finances. You can't necessarily pay back the government when they invest, but it should be at a point where these clubs have a responsibility to reinvest this money, whether it is in infrastructure or in the players, to ensure that the government gets money for value on their investment. It can't just benefit club owners just for themselves. It has to be something that benefits the state because the state invested.
I guess the reason I think the U.S. do it the way they do, because look at the demographic, look at the size of the U.S. compared to the size of Trinidad. So if we had a Caribbean league, Jamaica, Barbados, and we had a couple of clubs from there, just like the IPL or the cricket, and we have that, then we can expand a little better that way. But Trinidad, to do like the U.S. doing, I think it's just too small.
No, and why I want to disagree is because just what you said, because we're that small and because there's limited resources, we have to think on a little bit smaller scale. Can we, in the early part of this conversation, we spoke about teams from the Super League not having the financial wherewithal. Let's say, for instance, Steve, Carnage United, who back in the day, as you know, was a big team. Carnage United now, I sponsor them. If I win and come up to the Super League from the championship, I can't compete.
Correct.
I have to find, there's no sponsor. I have to find $45,000 just to register. I have to go to Tobago. I think it's twice. I think it's 2 Tobago teams they have. That is airfare and stuff, or boat ride. I don't know. And I don't think players should be going up on a boat. Then I have to find money for Maxis to go to the away games. The games are 4 o'clock. The guys are working. It's humanly impossible for me to get a team where the guys are working to go and play in the Super League and compete. And that's why we're out of the Super League, because we were in the Super League. But we couldn't get 11, 12 guys to go to San Fernando. Let's just use that for 4 o'clock, because we couldn't do it. The guys working. So because of our dynamic, I believe all of the leagues are important. The part-time, when I served on the sports company for a while as an advisor there, and I thought that the 3 tiers were grassroots. They just had a tremendous league in Point. I think Kari spearheaded it. I think they have leagues in my community. They have leagues in Diego Martin. That is total participation for all.
Correct.
Then you have grassroots programs where the guys are in the Super League. They go to work. They could come and play a game in the afternoon. And then there's the guys who want to make something of themselves and want to be a professional player and want to do that all day long. And that's where the elite development part of it comes in. We have a kid, Jabari Mitchell. 3 years ago, he was the best player in the Colleges League. He was voted best player in the Colleges League. He then went on to play for the National Under-20s. I think he was 17 years old. He was the best player in the Caribbean League for Under-20s. Now he's working on the Toyota site, or his Mitsubishi site that they're building somewhere there, because there's nobody's paying him. He's not playing any football. And this boy, for me, most definitely would have gone to the ranks of senior national team. But can he do that ponging a concrete slab? The answer is no. We need to structure bit by bit. And we can't bite off more than we can chew. And I think that is what we're trying to do. We need to fix ourselves in compartments, and then we could spread it all around.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to pick up on that because I feel Jabari was mismanaged more than anything else.
Yeah.
Viewers will be right back after the short break.
Some of these companies, the state enterprises that had teams, you would always hear that the football players had respect as a football player. So you worked, but you had a little more time because they respected the fact that you had football as part of your duty.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host. Okay, welcome back. So guys, you know, we have something on the platform now, on the table now, that we got to move forward with. Yeah. But with the joining of the league, so now we can't even change. So we could speculate how much we want and what. We just need to make sure this works. And let's talk about some of the hiccups that we have now with players playing and not getting paid, or coaches coaching and not getting paid. Let's throw that out on the board and let's talk about that.
Well, just to start it, you know, because I would like to get Angus' opinion on it. The league has been more or less, you know, stagnated for the last maybe 5 or 6 months. Last set of games were probably November, December. So you have a lot of guys in our system. At the high point, the Pro League probably employed maybe about 400 persons, more or less, give or take. Yeah. Now we're going to have 2 tiers where they're supposed to be paid because there's money coming in. We're having maybe, 14 and then 10 teams, so we're having about 24 teams. You know, each team having about 20 players on average who have been inactive for the last few months. It doesn't look well for our development at all. It doesn't work well for our national team, for the local players. That's why we're having to be summoning basically the foreign-based players all the time. But it also taps into something where, can you give a player wrong for looking at other forms of employment, which most of the times is outside of the football? Because these players are being contracted for the period of when the league is being played. After that, it's very hard for clubs as well to invest that money, you know, and nothing is happening. So I wanted to know, what is the psyche of a player, or what is the culture of our players in Trinidad and Tobago, and how is that affecting us in terms of our football?
I grew up in the era where we didn't get paid in Trinidad. We were soldiers or police officers. We were in Trintalk. Those were the big
State
teams at that time.
Right, yeah.
Where we used to go to work and come and play. We have gone away from that because we've seen so much technology and see where you could reach as a player and what you can earn. So guys wanted it, which is natural. The problem now is that we haven't played football since December. There's an under-23 tournament in July, the 16th of July.
Right, 16th, yeah.
I called up, I have some guys who would have been at that age, Jabari Mitchell, Nicholson Thomas, and these guys in there. These guys are Justin Sadu, you know. Correct. These guys. These guys are working on a plant, doing construction work on a plant. Because as Norada rightly said, these guys have to live. Some of them have kids now, and so they have to live. The teams who wants to play and are ready to play in the Pro League cannot play because there are teams in the Pro League who only depend on the government subvention. And they won't kick a ball unless they get government. And some of these teams had a lot of money. They had all kind of massive companies sponsoring them, and they never used the money wisely. And now they don't want to invest in any of their own monies. They know themselves. So the guys are suffering. Football in the country is suffering because there's absolutely no football for the last, 5 months now. Yeah. There has been absolutely no football. So the psyche of these players are, I'm going to this construction site now, and I'm making upward $6,000-8,000 a month. Can Steve David tell me now, come back and work for, can Angus tell me now, come back and work for $3,000-4,000? I think there's going to be a lost generation. Correct. We're going to lose a generation of players and which is very, very sad because we don't have the pools that we used to have before to be losing such type of players now.
And you know, and I want to start by saying you call 3-point guys, eh?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, the talent.
Kids I've worked with, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we have played, like you said, for different, and we work and then we go and play.
Mm-hmm.
So it tells me that the way we were structured back in the day, Sportsman League, because now we're close to where we work, we're playing close to where we work,
Right.
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
work better for this country.
Yeah.
And not this national thing, and we have to go all over the place. But I think, and unless you are special, and we don't have that many special ones here, unless you are special like it was to go outside, then you should be we should play local, and the local money is really semi-pro kind of money, 4,000, 5,000,
Yeah.
and then allowed to work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't force to be we forcing
Professionalism. Yeah.
professionalism, forcing it, and we're not really to that
I
point
agree
yet.
to you 100%, Steve, and that's what I said earlier.
Yeah, I think it's that.
That we force we should. That's why I'm saying we should pool everything together and be able to pay the players comfortably. We have enough stadiums that we can play doubleheaders in the night, 6 and 8. We
Just
can
to
play
have
games.
football,
The
yeah.
guys can go to work. They come and train in the afternoon, and because it used to work for us before, we were creating more stars back then than now, you know. And the few fortunate ones who, because the type of contracts we get now is in Uzbekistan or in Vietnam, that kind of things that we get. So then let's organize where we supplement what the guy is getting in his job with a little extra. And I fully agree. I mean, Trinidad was a big team. Police would have won the CONCACAF Championship. Defense Force would have won with guys who, I was part of the Defense Force where we were working and winning all the titles. So I believe that is a model for us. And if there's a fruit team, because at the time Jack had a team, Joe Public, they were fully pro because he could have paid. So if there are some clubs who can pay their own way, I think the Cosmos could have done it in America, but most of the teams were sub. If it was so we can have that same model and go down that way.
I think what you're alluding to is really that we have to respect our environment, you know, our football culture here. But in order for that to work, is also an entire psyche has to change in terms of the employers as well. Because most of the times when I've heard this story, now it doesn't have to, you know, pertain to the army or the police or anything. Some of these companies, the state enterprises that had teams, you would always hear that the football players had respect as a football player. So you worked, but you had a little more time because they respected the fact that you had football as part of your duties. So I think, but some of these guys, when they work at these companies now, they're working full-time as an employee of the company and then to have the demand as a footballer. So I think what has to happen is we have to look at, for example, I tell persons, you know, a lot of our athletes should do like in the States where they work in hotels and banks because they have different times. The banks give them, okay, you're working on the Fridays because that is the most demand. So they come in on Fridays or weekends or whatever because during the week they could go ahead to their training or only at evening times and stuff like that because they adapted. Because what they want is we need to put these athletes in customer service positions because they interact with people face to face. It's a little less demanding on their body because they are national athletes with the Olympic team or whatever the case is. We can't be putting them, but companies have to be open to that. We should have, I'm just saying, Flow, TSCT, all these companies who have,
TNTech,
who have these CSR positions to be using these athletes because they will get public to, you know, awareness, they know them, interact with them, but also because it's less demanding on them to also continue their training to become professionals. And with the league, as Angus said, you know, one of the things with the Pro League, what it was supposed to offer is that in Trinidad, we have a lot of leagues, we have a lot of teams, but we have very small footballing population at the moment. It's dying every year or they're gravitating to other sports. So what is happening is that we're finding the best teams not having the best players all the time. Because you take 20 players, you probably might get 5 great ones. And then you fill in the rest with, players who just have the interest. Whereas if we had, as you were alluding to, where the Pro League was like the MLS, it's a fixed number. So you have to be great to get into that pool so you have the best there. When you spread it out, sometimes what happens is it dwindles. However, the infrastructure is being put together, and going back to the commission, they have a job to do to ensure that with 24 teams, that you now have players spread across this 24 as even as possible to ensure that it's entertaining enough. Because what we miss is that with the franchise sport that we see in CPL doing well and stuff, with bringing this league together, we need to ensure that it's competitive enough. If it's not competitive, then people wouldn't, gravitate towards it.
We all know what's happening, so it's just, and we all have the answers, but it's just not flowing down the way it should. Let me jump on TTFA and coaches, Angus, and let's talk something about. And we talked offset about people coaching and not getting paid and all of this thing. Let's drive that. If we're not getting paid, we can't even have the best coaches coaching the teams. Because the best ones, the better ones are saying, hey, not me, look somewhere else, I need to get paid.
Well, most definitely. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, because in any field that you are in, if you're a cameraman or news broadcaster, you want to reach to the highest level in whatever field you're in. If you're a footballer, you want to reach to the highest level. So similarly, if you're a coach, you want to reach. And it's nonsensical to say that, oh, this guy got money, he did this and that, and he played in England for much years, so he could work for TTFA for free. That's nonsense, because I'll use Cristiano Ronaldo and LeBron James. They have money. LeBron James moved from Cavaliers. He went and got more money to his new team because he's a professional. Yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo was paying bags of money at Real Madrid. He went to Juventus and get more money. He didn't go and say, well, I made all that money already, so I could go and give Juventus 2-3 years of my life. That is not how professionalism works. Yeah. And if we want to have national teams that are well prepared, and because we know how to do it, because there's an under 17 elite team that has been trained under 15 or 16. Correct. That has been training for almost 2 years and been given exposure and has a very good staff. I think Stuarty is a good coach, always have respect for the man. And he have the people around him who he wants to be around him. Clyde Leon, who has done a lot as a young player, played national football. So he can impart knowledge on people. Leon St. Louis is there. So a lot of good people is there. Why are we not getting that level of support for the other teams? Why are we not getting that level of professionalism in the other teams? We had Murati. She was here last year. She brought 2 women with her. Correct. They were housed and being paid. They were given cars. We had St. Feet. He was here. Mm-hmm. He was being paid. And I keep saying emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Why now are we offering our coaches, our local guys, where, Steve, I don't know if you know, but there's a guy named Lachu. He's coaching Dominica national team, Trinidadian. Jamal Shabazz is coaching St. Lucia national team. We have Latapi, he's coaching Barbados national team. So other people are respecting our coaches, and we are not respecting our coaches.
Okay, let's take a pin right there. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we pick up where we left off. Viewers, we'll be right back after the show. But the under 23, I don't believe in the under 23 team. I'll tell you why I don't. Under 23 national team is like guys who cannot get onto them. Because when you're 23 years old, you should be on the national team.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host. Okay, welcome back, viewers. Yeah, guys, so we were talking about we putting coaches in positions where they don't get paid, and they're accepting it because they want a door open for them.
Yeah.
They're trying to get break in.
Yeah.
And the real good coaches who other people on the outside can see is getting the money and they're leaving. So how can our football develop?
I think we need to respect ourselves. If we start to respect ourselves, because if all of the coaches say, well, our local guys say, well, I'm not doing it because I'm not being paid. I respect every coach in the Pro League, every coach in the Colleges League, because I think everybody does a fantastic job with limited amount of resources. So I think all the guys, so when the guys work that hard and get the opportunity now to have a national team at whatever level it is, for you to tell them, you know, listen, we have no money, you got to do it for free. And then you bring in guys like St. Feet and these guys who, I mean, the guy couldn't coach, and he got all this money. I think it's unfair and it's disingenuous that you bring these foreign guys, you get the monies, and then the local guys, you keep saying that you have no money. Because if they get money tomorrow, if the TTFA get £5 million every year, would they hire a local coach, or would they go for one of the big name coaches out there? That's the question we need to ask.
On this show, I had said, and of course, I brought up your name, Angus. I said, on the 17, why didn't we get somebody with more experiences? And your name came up and so on. Because I think you do a good job wherever you go. So did they offer you that job? Did they ask you and you turned them down? Or did they not even?
They didn't. They didn't, but more, and that would probably be perfect for me because I've been in the college league for 6 years.
That's what we were thinking.
And I know all the players. And credit to Stern there, you know, I supported him. He can tell you that. I called him on the phone. I asked him if he wanted help, you know, because the bigger picture for me is Trinidad football. I'm a servant. But no, they didn't. They did call me about a month ago about the under-23s. And again, they came up with the fact that they had no money, and they had a number of people called me, wouldn't call the names, from the FA. Asking me to do it for free, and I said I can't. You know, if I do it, I'll be disrespecting myself, but I'll also be disrespecting all the other coaches who coming up behind me. Because I was talking to people like Dale Saunders and these guys up to yesterday, and they want to do the job, but these guys are doing the job as a job. They don't work in the police service or the defense force or any of those jobs. They take football very seriously.
Full-time, yeah.
And they're also refusing to do the jobs.
But I think the under-17 is like the perfect group for you because you're with the colleges. You're also with Club Sando, but the under-23, I don't believe in the under-23 team. I'll tell you why I don't. Under-23 national team is like guys who cannot get onto them, because when you're 23 years old, you should be on a national team.
Senior team.
So it's like the rest of the pack. So I don't like that for you, but I like for like a development like on the 15, on the 17, maybe on the 20, but 17 was perfect.
Yeah, 17, that was the perfect age group. But I think, you know, he's been blazing a trail of, you know, being a professional coach and what it is to be a professional coach. So by, you know, all respect is given to you because you have to lead that. I think what is happening is that for far too long, we've been, you know, we've not given the respect to sport as it should be given as we see it outside. And when a local does it, you know, we have different views on it, but I think you would have to hold firm on saying this is the standard of a professional coach, this is what should be done in order for younger guys who are coming up to actually look forward and say, you know, there is a bright future once we do this. Because a lot of people sometimes, they don't want to turn it down because they think it will never come again, or if you turn it down, then there's no life as a coach. But, you know, guys like Angus and a few others have been able to continue coaching and successfully, even in keeping their demands as, you know, a professional coach.
So we just won the Club Sando, that is. We just won the, big up enough South players for you. We just won the under-17s, and I coached that team, Pro League. And we don't have one player that was selected for the national under 17 teams. And we have a good, we played, all of the other teams had players. We didn't get one pick. Naparima won every league that it had to win last year and undefeated. And we didn't get one selection on the national.
Well, we had a conversation about if there were players on the under 17 recently, you know, and I said may have been 3 I think could have not been on the team. And, you know, Steve also said he knew a couple, and even Dr. Henderson.
Yeah, we got
you
none.
would be a perfect
not
person
one
to
pick
explain,
we got.
you know.
And Fatima, on the other hand, was relegated, and they have 6. You know, and some of the reasons some of the boys got dropped was that they came training late or whatever. But and this is no disrespect to anybody. I'm just stating facts. There was a bus that was coming from Port of Spain with police escort to bring them early. There was no such bus that was coming from south. And the guys had to go to Golconda and all these areas where you have all the traffic, as you well know, Steve. That's why I was a little bit late this morning. But it's the next topic on yourself.
but you are a North person.
Yes.
But you're coaching South.
Yes, I do.
So I'm glad this is happening now. You can see what we've been going through from a long time ago.
Yeah. I was very disappointed because those kids would have worked very hard. And to win a league without losing a game, it takes a lot of concentration. It doesn't matter what league you're playing. And it was disappointed for me because then we lost a generation of players because they can't play under 17 ever again. Ever again.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it also affects the mentality of the players on the southern side because it's almost like working towards this for a period of time, you know, whether you go to a good school that won the league, you play at a good club, there's always that small hope that you would be seen at the national level, and, you know, that is sort of like the prize at the end of the tunnel. You're not entitled to it, but at least you open the door. I think with that, it kind of says, what was the point? You know, I could go to a school that probably didn't play well, I could play at a club that didn't win, and still be rewarded at the end of the tunnel. I think we have to, you know, try to find ways. We're too small of a country to have that sort of, you know, differentiation. Like, South is not as far as we think it is in comparison to other countries that have players from all over. So I think you were the perfect person to touch on that topic. I hope it's not a generation that is lost. We're trying to put things in place. This is what the league has to do to ensure that these guys could still get into this league that is going to be properly run and ensure that they have some success in the future.
Angus, before I let you go, I'll give you a minute to sum up how you feel and what are the things that you think should happen to move us forward.
I think there's 3 main points. First, we need to put aside all our petty differences for the benefit of the football and stop having politics in the football. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we must respect each other. Everybody must respect each other. As I said, all the coaches, I respect everybody because everybody does a fantastic job. And most important, we must always think about the children first because they are the future. We are here to guide them. And if we put them first, we won't be only studying ourselves.
Okay. I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much, bud. Thank you. Narada, thank you as well.
Always a pleasure.
ACTN, thank you for giving us the opportunity. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. We show on Monday night at 8 o'clock and repeat on Tuesday at 1. We do have a Facebook page. You can check us out, and we do have an email address, feedofdreamstt@gmail.com. You can drop us a line. For the parents with kids in the Point Fortin area and surrounding areas, we do have our Field of Dreams as youth soccer camp on August the 5th for a couple of weeks. You can bring your kid, it's free to everybody. The show is ended. Go in peace. My name is Steve David. Good night.